The Grind, a Minnesota sports podcast.
We've got huge Minnesota Vikings news to discuss on today's show. This is The Grind, a Minnesota sports podcast where Minnesota sports teams outside of the Lynx have won a championship since 1991. It's been over 12,000 days. It's crazy. What a grind it's been. It's been a grind, that's for sure. One does not simply eat a banana like this. You've got to eat a banana like that. No homo. Anyways, welcome into the show. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. It's going to be a fun day. It's going to be an entertaining show. I can feel it in my loins. But first, I need to tell you about 5-Star Bath Solutions in Minneapolis because they transformed our bathroom in 48 hours, and they are willing to do the same for you. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis came in and remodeled our floor, our shower, our tub, our counters, our cabinets, our mirror. We went from a single to a double sink. All of this was done in 48 hours. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. That's their guarantee. Bathroom transformations that are affordable and convenient. 48 hours. Don't wait 8 weeks for your project to get done. Don't cram into your teeny tiny bathroom rubbing shoulders with everybody. Contact 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis and get your bathroom done today. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. All right, so this huge Vikings news. Plus, there's an incredible Pope video that we're going to talk about later. The Minnesota Vikings had their opening press conferences as training camp officially unpacked yesterday, but not really. It's more so like the warm-up, shake your hand, say hi. Today's the day where you practice, you get on the field, you do some things. And Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah took to the podium and answered questions. And Kevin O'Connell said, this is a Kevin Seifert tweet. Kevin O'Connell says, these are the only two players who will be on the PUP. Christian Darrisaw, Will Fries, and Rondale Moore, among others, are cleared to practice, in some cases on a limited basis. It looks like Christian Darrisaw is going to do some individual work on the side, some one-on-one kind of stuff. But it appears that Will Fries is more ready than Christian Darrisaw. But these decisions and health factors cannot be overlooked because the Minnesota Vikings offensive line is my MVP of the 2025-26 season. If the Vikings offensive line is great, then the Minnesota Vikings offense will be great. Even with J.J. McCarthy as their QB. Everything will go this season based on how the Vikings offensive line performs because it opens up the run game, it opens up the play action, it will alleviate pressure from McCarthy, and you know the business. You get it. You hear it on TV every Sunday. Oh, you got to set up the run to set up the play action. And you got to blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah. You need an inch? Oh, just stuff it to your running back. Give him a yard. It's a game of inches out there. You know, what you do is you run the ball well. You get those linebackers sucked in. Then you hit them with the play action. And you go over the top with Justin Jefferson. Whoa. Brilliant analysis I've never heard before. But it is true analysis. Sometimes the easy, simple analysis is the accurate analysis. And having Darrisaw having Will Fries activated, practicing, is huge for the Minnesota Vikings offense. Huge. Because now the offense can go the way it was designed to go. McCarthy will not be asked to perform and throw the ball as many times as Sam Darnold was last year, because the Vikings want to spread the love around. The goal of Kevin O'Connell and Vikings management, and a big reason why they brought in Jordan Mason, is so that they can establish the run game more and alleviate pressure from J.J. McCarthy's arm. And in order for their plan to come to fruition, having Christian Darrisaw, Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, and Brian O'Neill as the front five on offense is key. And that's what we're going to see. Now, I saw a couple of different discussions on whether or not Christian Darrisaw will be ready week 1 on Monday night against the Chicago Bears. And I guarantee you that Christian Darrisaw will not play Monday night against the Chicago Bears, because he's coming off a torn ACL and MCL. And the last thing that you're going to ask a player coming off a situation like he's coming off, when health needs to be a premium, you're not going to ask Christian Darrisaw to play Monday night and then follow that performance 6 days later in a matchup versus the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday night. So Christian Darrisaw is likely not going to play. It's not likely. I guarantee you Christian Darrisaw will not play against the Chicago Bears on Monday, and then turn around and play the Atlanta Falcons at 7:20 on Sunday night the next weekend. The best case scenario is he plays week 2 against the Falcons on Sunday night. But the likely scenario is that Christian Darrisaw will play week 3 against the Cincinnati Bengals, 12 o'clock start. So Darrisaw, he's not going to play week 1 or week 2, but it is huge and massive for the Vikings to get Christian Darrisaw back earlier on in the year. And I'll say it again. Having Darrisaw tear his ACL and MCL last year in the middle of the season was actually a good thing, because the last thing you want is him tearing his ACL in a playoff game versus the Rams, or him tearing his ACL in week 1 against the New York Giants. So although it was a torn ACL and MCL, which is something that you wouldn't wish upon any player, having it happen when it did, if it's going to happen, was actually advantage Vikings. So now that they can get their front five back in action together. The next story. Warren Sharp. He's a football mind. And he talks about football. That's why he's a football mind. He's at Sharp Football on Twitter. And he ranked his front sevens going into 2025. And the Minnesota Vikings front seven, according to Warren Sharp, is the best front seven in football. Now, what's especially unique about the Vikings front seven is that when I think of them and analyze them, none of them are the best or arguably the best defensive linemen in football. They're all really good players. And the Vikings defensive line is spread and filled with really good players. Jonathan Allen isn't the best at his position. Neither is Javon Hargrave or Andrew Van Ginkel or Jonathan Grenard. But what I see when I view these players is speed, flexibility, and depth. So we don't have a Myles Garrett or a TJ Watt. We don't have individual greatness. We have very good players. And because the Vikings have taken a hard look at what players are playing where, the Vikings defensive line is filled with really good players. And I would say it's the same for the offensive line. And that's a question that the Vikings have answered without really ever being asked the question. Do you want one superstar player, Myles Garrett or TJ Watt or whoever, or do you want depth filled with really good players? And that's how the Vikings offensive and defensive lines have been established. There's not a single player on the offensive or defensive line where you would look at them and say they are top two in the league. But they're definitely not bottom tier. They're not even middle tier. You got great and then you got good. And the Vikings offensive and defensive lines are filled with really good players, which is interesting. The depth that the Vikings have built to be a dominant team in the trenches. I don't see one area on the defensive line or the offensive line where I'm like, well, that's an issue. Yeah, you're really going to have to make up for his issues. You're going to have to make up for his problems, and he's going to get exposed. Donovan Jackson is the one player where you look at him and say, I mean, you're a rookie. So there's a possibility of you getting exposed, but being next to Darrisaw and Ryan Kelly is only going to help. So it's fascinating to look at the Vikings' intentional rebuild going back years so that they could have the cap money to spend this offseason and not bring in one great player that might get 20 sacks in a season, but to bring in many good players that could combine to get 30 plus sacks in a season. So it's kind of cool. And I don't know other teams' front sevens. Broncos, no idea. Giants, Texans, Browns, Jets, Eagles, Bills. I have no idea who even plays. TJ Watt, I know him. Myles Garrett, know him. But the fact that Warren Sharp ranked the Vikings front seven number one in the NFL showcases the intentionality the Vikings had behind their rebuild. All right, let me tell you about Hookland Farms beef because they have the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. And it's affordable. And you don't have to worry about pesticides or crap getting in there because it's homegrown 100% grass-fed beef straight from the cow. And you go to the store, you try to buy some beef, and it's like $4, $5 a pound. But then you try to get a chuck roast or a steak, and it's like $7, $8, $9 a pound, depending on where you go. Hookland Farms beef sells poundage at the same price. You can get steak beef per pound, the same price as 1 pound beef. So you're looking at per pound, roughly $4 per pound for a steak and a chuck roast, which is incredible and a price that you will not see anywhere. And it's 100% grass-fed beef, so you don't have to worry about where your beef is being made or where it's coming from. Contact Hokeland Farm Beef, 952-491-1541, 952-491-1541. Tell Jared you heard about it from Tim, and he'll give you a little discount on your first order. Hokeland Farms Beef, 952-491-1541. All right, real quick, let's wrap up the show with one of the coolest videos that I've seen, and which automatically places the Pope as the greatest Pope ever.
Thank you, Pope.
So that's the Pope, or should I say, the Pope. That's a cool video. I have my problems with the Pope, not because of the Pope himself, but because of how people look and view the Pope. They view the Pope as God, and they idolize the Pope. And you can hear my other podcast, Bring Heaven Down, the Christian-based podcast on iHeartRadio, where I talk about the Pope a few weeks ago. You can go and find it. People idolize the Pope. People view the Pope as God. But regardless, with that said, the Pope, taking the shirt, holding it up. He's from Chicago, the Pope. Cool story. A man of the people, the Pope. So, as far as I know, he immediately becomes the greatest Pope in Pope history because he held a shirt saying, the Pope. I don't know how that makes any sense, but it does, at least in my mind. The Pope. All right, remember, bring heaven down. Check out that Christian podcast if you want. But what I was actually trying to say, and that came out, was check out 5-Star Bath Solutions in Minneapolis. 5-Star Bath Solutions in Minneapolis. Affordable pricing. Free consultations. They got, and their promise is they'll get it done in 48 hours, like they did ours. Full bathroom remodel. And then Hokeland Farms Beef, 952-491-1541. 952-491-1541. Hokeland Farms Beef, 100% rotationally grazed. Check them out. Contact Jared. Tell him you heard about him from Tim. All right, thanks, everybody. Hope you all have a good day.